This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
You never yourself in the morning until you've had a nice cup of coffee. You know, I've not been sleeping too well, but that's probably because I've been playing... Yeah, it's led to some nightmares. You know, the original Resident Evil 2 isn't even the original Resident Evil 2. No, I'm serious. It's not. Huh? Ever since watching Night of the Living Dead as a kid, zombies freaked me out. Except this one. Although, the scariest thing in that film is the ending, where they shoot the surviving black guy for the lols.
Good shot.
If we're going to talk about what became known as Resident Evil 1.5 though, then we need to start at the beginning. No, not that far back.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's the one. As there hadn't really been any survival horror games before Resident Evil, except for Alone in the Dark, Capcom decided to make the first one with Resident Evil. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Capcom entrusted Shinji Mikami with making a horror title, a seemingly perfect fit having worked exclusively on kids' games until that point. Resident Evil was released in Japan and the US on the same day in 1996, though the games were different. The Japanese version was called Biohazard and was in Japanese, whilst the US game wasn't. I'm sure you know the story by now. A team is sent in to investigate a series of murders, but now they've gone missing. So your team is sent in to search for the team that's gone missing. It all kicks off with this live action scene, where the characters are so scared they've had the colour knocked right out of them. They come face to face with some irate zombie dogs, so they do what any normal cop would do in that situation: shoot the ground. Yeah, if this whole cop thing doesn't work out for them, I'm sure they make great stormtroopers. You play as either Jill Valentine,
Joseph!
or professional Zoolander impersonator Chris Redfield. Along with some of their fellow STARS team members, Chris and Jill find themselves stuck in this massive mansion, which, would you know, is full of zombies, who are pretty keen on making you their lunch. I think you've got something on your lip there? The game was quite complex for the time. It wasn't like Sonic where you just go from the left hand side of the screen to the right hand side of the screen, or Tekken where you just physically assaulted the crap out of the person opposite you. It had like puzzles and stuff. Most of the doors in the mansion were locked, and you had to solve puzzles by pushing things, or pushing buttons, or pushing buttons to push things to push things. If you were lucky, you'd get a key, which unlocks more areas for you to push more stuff. Resident Evil was entered into the Gamers edition of the Guinness Book of World Records 2008 edition for having the best dialogue ever. No wait, scratch that. Worst dialogue ever.
What is it?
Blood. Jill, see if you can find any other clues. I'll be examining this. Hope this is not Chris's blood. We should start from the first floor, okay? And Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
To Jill sandwich.
It wasn't just zombies you were up against either. You encounter ill-tempered spiders, crows, bees, Shrek, that snake out of the Harry Potter film, and crows. In between all the pushing stuff and scares... Oh, I forgot the dogs! The dogs! You eventually find out what's going on. Funnily enough, it's not an ordinary mansion, I knew it, but it is in fact a lab for creating biological weapons, run by a corporation which is all evil-y and stuff, called Umbrella. So the residents were very much evil. It turns out Wesker, your pixelated Stars teammate, is behind it all. Son of a bitch! You discover that he's an Umbrella agent, although he's actually trying to Fleetwood Mac and go his own way. He unleashes the Tyrant, a sort of super peed off large biological weapon zombie creature, to try and take you out, but not for lunch. Lol, that would have been nice. But the joke's on Wesker, because the Tyrant doesn't think twice about killing him. That'll teach you for liking Fleetwood Mac. But hurrah! The team overcome all the odds and eventually blow up the Tyrant. Rest in pieces. Some lucky Stars members escape in a helicopter, but the mansion explodes along with any proof of the whole affair with it. Resident Evil's popularity exploded too. Resident Evil became a massive success. Capcom had coined the phrase survival horror, because it was more than just about horror. It was about surviving as well. And as with anything that's released which is popular, it doesn't take long to try and milk that zombie cow for all it's worth. Moo! So Capcom did, by releasing Resident Evil again, calling it the Director's Cut. However, when Capcom released the so-called Director's Cut in 1997, they'd accidentally forgot to include the uncensored live-action intro from the Japanese original Biohazard. The uncensored footage is what you're seeing now. It was in colour and a little bit gorier. I mean, look at that severed limb. It even had Chris Redfield advertising smoking. Hey kids, you wanna get cancer? Director's Cut sold so well, they re-released it again in the same year in Japan and the US with the Director's Cut Dual Shock Edition, though now you could use a different controller with it. Yeah. Oh, and they also updated some of the music too. I'm not even making this up. Who signed off on this? Yeah, let's put in that song that sounds like a series of farts. And the Grammy goes to... That's not even the best bit. This music is credited to legendary deaf composer Mamoru Samuragochi. Plus, he was often referred to as a digital age Beethoven. The guy did this? However, Mamoru Samuragochi was exposed as a fraud in 2014, when it turned out that not only had someone else been ghostwriting his music for years, but he wasn't even deaf. During an interview in 2013, the interviewer noticed that Samuragochi was able to answer questions before his sign language interpreter had even finished interpreting them. But the bit that really gave him away was when he got up to answer the doorbell. Doorbell. You couldn't even make this up. The only way it could have been any better is if this was his doorbell. Of course, once Capcom had exhausted the amount of times they could re-release a game, for the time being anyway, they were keen to get to work on a sequel. Resident Evil 2 was being directed by 25-year-old first-time director Hideki Kamiya, and Capcom had already been showing off footage of Resident Evil 2 within months of release of the original game, because commercialism. Eager Resi fans got to see clips and images of two brand new characters, Elza Walker and Leon Kennedy. Leon was an established cop, unlike the final game where he's a rookie, and Elza, no, not that one, was a motorbike riding college student who had just returned to Raccoon City at the worst possible time. The plot was different to the final game too. The Stars team had actually succeeded in convincing authorities of Umbrella's misdemeanors from the events in the first game, and Umbrella responded by unleashing a zombie outbreak. Still not as evil as Amazon. But despite the game being around 70% complete, Shinji Mikami, who was the producer of the sequel, turns up one day, sees it, and doesn't like it. Mikami comes in and he's all like, "This is boring, it's not scary, I don't like the futuristic setting, it sucks." So he brought in a script writer who was all like, "I think you should scrap it and start again." So they did. The original Resident Evil sequel soon became known as Resident Evil 1.5, and the team quietly got to work on restarting the sequel. Many were not aware the game was reworked until the game was eventually released, as Capcom had continued to show the cancelled version of the game for a year after they'd scrapped it. Fortunately for ardent fans, Resi 1.5 was leaked online in 2013. It's rumoured that the game was originally bought for around $9,000 by a group of fans who were keen to rebuild and complete the game. Today we're looking at an early build of the game called Magic Zombie Door, which includes English text and assets to make a more playable early version of the game. And you can choose between both Leon Kennedy and Elza Walker. Let's pick Elza considering she was completely forgotten. So Elza starts off with having crashed her motorbike into a police station. Well, that's fortuitous timing. Oh, maybe not. She's a bit sad about her bike though. Seems like it broke its axle, poor thing. One of the first things you will notice when playing this, aside from all the glitches, is that it really is more gruesome than the original. Elsa finds someone called Roy. Turns out he's been attacked by the zombies. You're doomed, mate. He asks that you release a man in a locked cell called John. Wait, you want me to let some prisoner out of his cell? What? What? Why is he even in there? Yeah, okay, why not? So you get to John, and you might recognise him if you've played the final version of Resident Evil 2, because he was this guy.
Freeze! Who are you? What are you doing here?
Don't shoot! I'm a human!
Ooh. Sorry about that, babe.
What's going on in this town?
Hold on. I ain't got no clue, darling. By the time I noticed something was wrong, the entire city was infested with zombies. But don't you worry, girlie. You'll be safe in here. I'm keeping a close eye on things.
He died. Okay, so you decide to let John out of his cell. Wait, give me a moment? Oh, and it turns out he's got a gun. Yeah, the prisoner has a gun. What? You and John catch up with Roy just as he's turning into a zombie. Roy pleads with John to shoot him, but John can't bring himself to do it. Oh, wait, I guess he can. Pliers? Pliers? Are you sure? So you and John start looking for a way out of this. But I guess that's one way to get out of this place. Geronimo! These corpses are definitely police officers? How could you tell? Was it the uniforms? You both team up with this kid, Sherry, who also appears in pretty much the same role in the final Resident Evil 2. Whoa, that's some strength, kid. Why use guns when you can just get this kid to pull the heads off of all the zombies? It's kind of amusing how you can blow the zombies' heads off and they'll still come towards you, or they'll get back up and try to hug you before they die. They just wanted to be loved. You soon come face to face with William Birkin, but he doesn't look like that. He looks like this now. He's looking for Sherry, who happens to be his daughter. Well, that or he's a raging alcoholic, desperately dying for a drink of sherry. Yeah, I'm not sure any amount of alcohol is going to help you with that, mate. You do the only humane thing there is to do. Shoot the flip out of it. Shoot him enough times and he starts to mutate. The real sad bit is that Sherry seems to have no idea what's happened to her papa. He's dead. Playing as Leon has a lot of similarities. You meet Police Chief Irons, who says he'll be fine. You sure? You don't look fine. So Leon interacts with Marvin. You might recognise him as this side character from the final Resident Evil game. Oh, hey Marvin. You okay? Yeah, he's okay. You also meet Ada Wong, who is quite similar to her character from the final Resident Evil game, except she wears a lab coat. So Ada, Marvin and you work together to escape. Don't worry about me, guys. I'm cop floating Jesus. Oh, look, it's like that bit in the first one, only far less scary. Oh, a firing range. Yes, I'm not sure this got much use. A lower number of polygons meant more zombies would appear on screen, to make everything appear more threatening. Although it is always fun to shoot zombies in half. What are you going to do? Bite my ankle? Yeah. There are also two sets of enemies that never made it into the final game. Wait, is that Donkey Kong? Nah, it's just an infected ape. Sometimes they'll come out of nowhere, and sometimes, but I've no idea why, they sound like a pterodactyl screeching when they die. They turn up differently with Elsa and are kind enough to wait whilst John and Elsa hatch a plan. John says he'll distract them for you, when in reality he just runs up to a wall. Thanks, mate! There are also these spider-human hybrids. Yeah. Leon also faces off against Birkin. He even tries to join you in the elevator. No! No! There's a weight limit. Marvin goes off and gets himself wounded, and Leon has no time for Marvin's stupidity. How careless. Yeah, how careless, Marvin, you stupid son of a bitch! So of course it's down to Leon to find a cure, because Ada isn't going to do anything, as it turns out she's been working for Umbrella the whole time. Dun dun dun! Nice one, Ada. You've made Marvin's condition worse. You okay, Marvin? 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 Eventually you get to what I'm guessing is supposed to be the end game area. Elsa and Sherry go to the control room, and I suppose Elsa is expecting this kid to save everyone. Come on, Sherry, you must know what to do. Just press the buttons. Hit the Boopty boops! Come on, Sherry! Everyone's gonna die, Sherry! I don't know if it's the nostalgia, but I enjoyed playing what I could. Despite the fact it's as glitchy as hell, it's not particularly scary. The controls are scarier. And I mean a lot of the game is missing. I can't say I found it as boring as Mikami did. I'd have loved to have seen the 70% version as a bundle of some kind in the Resi 2 remake, rather than just a downloadable costume. But Capcom's gamble paid off, as Resident Evil 2 became the biggest selling single platform game for a Resident Evil title and made all the monies, setting up a franchise for life. And many gamers consider Resident Evil 2 to be one of the best games of all time. Because let's face it, what other game has a walking, talking, knife-wielding, zombie-killing tofu as a character? No one, that's who! Right, back to the Resident Evil 2 remake it is then.
Hang in there, Ben. Bitter irony. The chief of police, a co-conspirator. Get that scum. Make him...
Jill sandwich.
My chest! It's burning! Hang in there, Ben. What's wrong? Hang in there, Ben. Hang in there, Ben.
Hello you! Thanks ever so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to be first to see future Fact Hunt episodes. Click on the bell if you already are to make sure you're notified, and be sure to check out my other episodes. And if you want to be super awesome, check out my Patreon. But thanks again for watching, and I'll be seeing you next time. Ta-ra for now!